I was recently directed to a series of questions posted by one Dr. Michael Brown. Wait a minute. Doc Brown?
Right, Scott!
Classic. What do you mean? You really think so?
Jesus, didn't that guy ever have hair?
Ouch. Anyway, Doc Brown here posted his question to several sites in order to get more answers to his questions, or at least sell it to multiple venues. It was posted under headlines like 7 Honest Questions for Atheists or Some Honest Questions for Atheists. In any event, it's always presented as honesty, which I find somewhat ironic since he chose to publish in places like WorldNet Daily, which is a right-wing tabloid and was nothing but wall-to-wall birther nonsense during both of Obama's elections, and Stream.org, which recently put out a piece asking if Democrats were the party of demons. And they aren't being metaphorical. They believe that politicians they don't like are literally possessed by demons. The point is, maybe not some of the best sites to proclaim your honesty is what I'm saying. Where were we? Right, let's look at Doc Brown's article.
Is your atheism based on study or experience? First, would you say that you are, or were, an atheist based primarily on intellectual study, or based on experience? Or did you never believe in God at all?
It's based on rational thought. I haven't been given any evidence on the existence of a deity, so I have no reason to conclude that there is one. This is not to say that it means there isn't a God, just that I have no reason to accept the claims that there is one.
Put another way, was it the lack of answers to prayer or failures within organized religion or some other anti-faith experience that first caused you to question the existence of God? Or was it something you learned in school or your studies that caused you to doubt? Or were you raised without belief in God and you've never found a good reason to question it?
It was more of a case of thinking about the Bible that got me to question the idea of a deity. I was thinking about Exodus and realized the story lacked credulity. For those of you at home who are paying attention and know your Bible chronology, that means I got through the whole 7-day creation and worldwide flood without overly questioning events like that. But Exodus was where the cracks first appeared. I started over from the beginning and found myself dismissing the idea of the Judeo-Christian God, but thought maybe one of the other religions could be right. However, after taking a number of classes focused on several Eastern and Western religions, I realized that none of them had anything resembling evidence regarding the existence of their god or gods, and then it hit me, maybe all claims like this are wrong. The more I thought about it, the more obvious the lack of evidence became.
Do you have purpose and destiny? Second, would you say that even as an atheist, you still have a sense of purpose and destiny in your life? A feeling that you were put here for a reason and that you have a mission to accomplish? Or is it primarily people of faith who feel like this, since we are simply the products of an unguided, random evolutionary process?
You know what? I would love to have a porpoise in my life. Those aquatic mammals are just so darn adorable. I mean, we'd have to get a proper pool to keep them in and find some way to get enough fish to keep them fed, but it would be nice to have one as a pet.
He said purpose, not porpoise.
Oh, do I have a purpose? Well, not in the sense that you seem to mean. I don't think we're given a purpose or destiny from outside ourselves, which I find incredibly freeing.
Your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one.
It means that I get to determine what I want my purpose to be and strive towards that. In my case, being the best father and husband to my family as possible, and do my best to love and support them.
Does God exist? Third, would you say that you are 100% sure there is no such being as God, meaning an eternal, all-powerful, all-knowing being? Or would you say that, for all practical purposes, you have concluded that this God does not exist, although it is impossible to prove such a negative with absolute certainty?
I would say that for all practical purposes, I have no reason to accept that a deity exists. Now, I could be wrong, and be willing to change my mind if some compelling evidence came about to convince me. Doc Brown here said that his wife Nancy had a personal experience that was able to convince her. If good evidence was presented to me, then I, like her, would have to follow where that evidence leads.
Can science explain the origin of life? Fourth, do you believe that science can provide answers for many of the remaining mysteries of the universe, including how the universe began, including where matter came from and where the Big Bang derived its energy, the origin of life, and DNA coding?
The word can is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. I hope that we can discover the answers to some, if not many, of the remaining mysteries of the universe. But I don't know if we ever will. And that's okay. I honestly believe that not knowing an answer is better than just accepting an answer that may or may not be true. Because if we accept any answer, it means we stop looking and may be committed to an incorrect understanding of the world around us. That's why evidence is so important for determining what is true.
Again, these questions are not intended to stump you or prove that science can't answer everything. Instead, I'm genuinely wondering if you feel comfortable saying, we may not be able to answer all these questions now, but over time we'll get the answers, and we won't need a God to fill in the gaps.
No, I'm not comfortable saying that, because we might not ever get the answers. I am, however, comfortable saying, we might not be able to answer all these questions now, but hopefully we will. We may not discover everything, but not knowing something now that we might figure out later is better than slotting answers that we don't have any actual evidence for. If evidence does point to a deity, it might be that that evidence is what fills in the gaps of our knowledge, but we have no reason to use that as an explanation at the moment. You know, it seems that every time we get one of these questions for atheists, there's usually some variation of, well, here's something you can't explain. Like anything unknown is somehow proof that the theists are right. I hear it over and over again.
Something very familiar about all this.
Have you questioned your atheism? Fifth, have you had any experiences in life that caused you to question your atheism? Has something happened to you that seemed genuinely supernatural or otherworldly? Or have you been confronted with some information that shook your atheistic foundations, such as a scientific argument for intelligent design? If so, how have you dealt with such doubts about your atheism?
No. If I was confronted by good evidence, I would change my mind. There has never been an argument for intelligent design more complex than, we don't know how this, be it a specific biological function, or life itself, could have come about, so it must have been designed. As an aside, by definition, the supernatural doesn't exist. Please, hear me out. I'm not saying that things we consider supernatural don't exist. There may be things out there that go against our understanding of the world. Mythical things like gods, ghosts, or even a Michael Bay movie that doesn't insult his audience's intelligence.
I am directly below the enemy scrotum.
Classy dialogue there, Mike. But if we were to discover that such things exist, then they would be, by definition, part of the natural world, and therefore not supernatural. It's just that our understanding of the world would be wrong and would have to be updated to account for these discoveries.
Are you materialistic? Sixth, are you completely materialistic in your mindset? Meaning, human beings are entirely physical, human consciousness is an illusion, and there is no spiritual realm of any kind. Or are you superstitious, reading horoscopes or engaging in New Age practices or the like?
I'm a materialist because from what I've found, everything that exists is material. Even things that are considered intangible, like thoughts or emotions, can be broken down to electrochemical reactions in the brain. If I'm wrong, I want to be aware of it, so please, show me something that exists that isn't material in any way. This is not to say that human consciousness is an illusion. I'm aware of both myself and my surroundings, and this is a purely natural occurrence. As tool-using social creatures, we need an understanding of both the world around us and the concept of cause and effect to thrive. Naturally, developing consciousness would come from such pressures.
Would you be willing to follow God? Seventh, if you were convinced that God truly existed, meaning the God of the Bible, who is perfect in every way, full of justice and mercy, our Creator and our Redeemer, would that be good news or bad news? And would you be willing to follow him and honor him if he were truly God?
This is where it gets tricky. If I was given evidence for a deity, then I would have to at least admit it existed. That goes without saying. Demonstrate that something exists, and I'll agree that it does exist. But if you're specifically talking about following the God of the Bible, I'm of two minds about that. On the one hand, I would not want to follow a deity who says things like owning other humans or executing people for who they loved was acceptable or even required. But then there's the whole eternal torture thing for not doing what is demanded. I'd like to think that I have the moral character to stand up to anyone who says, Do these things you find morally repugnant, or I'll torture you for eternity. But honestly, I don't know how I would deal with it. In the end, if Doc Brown here wants me to believe in the claims of the Bible, he'll need some kind of evidence for God and his heavenly host of angels. There we go. All the editing is done. I hope this answers all of Dr. Michael Brown's questions. Wait a minute. Dr. Brown? Doc Brown! I should awkwardly shoehorn some Back to the Future references in here, since this cut doesn't have any at the moment. But I need to publish it now. If only I had more time to re-edit. Wait a second. Time? I've got it!